Today on the Self Smarter podcast, I do see Gen Z feeling more accomplished here than I felt millennials was kind of a drag. Like they would be more like, I don't have enough time to do it instead of just doing it. We complained about it more than we just did it.
Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and today I have good news and bad news. I'll start with the good news. Today, I'm so excited to introduce you to two incredible women that I have the opportunity to work with each and every day. Please meet Husain and Halle Caroline Cheatham.
Hi.
Hello. Before we get into it with these ladies, I estimate you've guessed by now that the not so great news is that Danelle isn't with us today. She's turned me loose with these young ladies, and today we're going to talk a lot about Gen Z and their mindset at work. Are we ready, ladies?
Ready. Let's do it.
Okay. First and foremost, will you tell our listeners a little bit about you? We'll start with Hena.
Okay.
Who has a great how she started at DMA story.
Yes, I do. So I am a social media specialist here at DMA. I've been here for a little over 3.5 years now. So if you do the math, my first week was, I think, like the week of March 9th, 2020.
It was.
Yeah, right before the world came crashing down.
Yes.
So we were in the office for a little bit, and then I remember Danelle saying, oh, it's going to rain on Friday. Everyone just, work from home.
Yes.
Don't even bother coming in.
Yes.
And that's how the day went. And after that weekend, we never came back.
We never came back. We came back. We just came back much later that year.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was weird. And it was weird for everybody.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, it was nothing that I knew how to navigate, obviously. And coming in as a newcomer, it was definitely a lot to learn. And I mean, all of my training and onboarding was done through Zoom, so it was quite the experience.
I think you got a little extra love because we knew that it was your first week, and then, like you said, the world fell apart with the pandemic, and so we gave you extra love.
For sure.
On
I was
Zoom.
a new person for a long time.
Yeah, and we didn't even know how to work Zoom until you came on board.
Yeah, that's true.
Now look at us, we're like pros. Well, I'm so glad you're here today. Let's talk to Halle Caroline. Hello.
Hi. So I'm a brand specialist here at DMA, and I've been here for almost 1.5 years now, which is crazy, just how the time has flown. And I actually also kind of have a crazy story looking back on how I stumbled upon DMA and just
you do.
Ended up having quite a few ties to the team randomly and how it all fell into place. I had originally heard about DMA through my aunt who had a mutual friend with Danelle. And so she was just passing off this information to me that she had heard about this marketing agency. It was supposed to be so fun. She told me there was a lot of Aggies, so I was expecting to have more people on my team. It ended up just being Danelle. But from there, I kind of went on to do my own research. I ended up putting 2 and 2 together that one of my good friends had just finished an internship here at DMA, who I went to A&M with. So kind of got to ask her questions, and then ended up finding out one of my best friends at A&M also had a relative that worked at DMA who ended up being Jordan. So super crazy, had a lot of ties to the team, was able to chat a little bit more with Jordan and hear about her experience at DMA, and then applied, and the rest is history.
It's amazing. It's an amazing story. Yes.
I know.
And so today, since we're diving into the topic of Gen Z, I just want to mention when y'all, our listeners, are listening, just think about that. So we have 2 women here, one of them who found DMA through friends and family, who's Gen Z, and then one, Hena, who came to DMA like through the whole, I'm going to apply for this job and then I'm going to have interviews, like the whole 9 yards. So we're getting their perspectives on Gen Z in the workplace, and we're going to do that right after this advertisement.
Hello, Self Smarter leaders. I have some exciting and game-changing news for you today. At long last, we've developed an Enneagram tool that you are going to want to sink your teeth into as you prepare for the new year coming soon. I'm so excited to share this with you. So here's what I want you to know. First of all, with this offer, you get 2 incredible resources all about the Enneagram for only $29. So happy Hanukkah and Merry Christmas to all of you. Okay. And what a great gift, too, to give to somebody. But when you purchase this Enneagram bundle, you receive first our document called Exploring the Enneagram, which we created ourselves, which comes in the form of an ebook and provides you with a comprehensive look at each of the 9 Enneagram types and the unique difference between each type's core fears, desires, motivations, coping behaviors, and so much more. All the things we talk about here on the podcast that you love. And we made it just for you, so it's easy to follow and digest. It's not overwhelming. And then secondly, in the bundle, you receive a second ebook titled Leadership and the Enneagram. This Enneagram tool aims to help you become a more informed and intentional leader so that you can guide your team to begin their own personal growth journey. What better gift can you bestow upon someone other than the gift of knowledge? So we want to bestow that on you first with that first document, Exploring the Enneagram, so that you can then turn around and lead someone else in light of the Enneagram with the Leadership and Enneagram ebook. You're going to love them both, and we've priced it to sell at that $29 price point, so you're welcome. Visit BeSelfSmarter.com and click on resources to get your Enneagram bundle today.
So ladies, and for our listeners, I just want to tee up the conversation. Why are we talking about Gen Z today? And really getting to know more about this generation as they enter the workplace. And I have some stats that I want to share. But first and foremost, this is a very important group of people. Of course, by 2025, this generation will make up approximately 25% of the workforce. So while millennials still reign supreme relative to people on the planet, here comes Gen Z coming into the workforce. These people are digital natives, which is important for leaders to understand because their formative years were marked by significant events and technological advancements such as growth of the internet and the rise of social media. They've seen screens most of their lives where millennials and Gen X and boomers have not. These experiences have shaped Gen Z's worldview, values, and expectations in ways that differ from previous generations. And as leaders, when we acknowledge Gen Z's unique background, we set the foundation for our discussion on how to effectively engage with and lead this generation in the workplace. Some data that I think is going to help us get our arms around really even more so who is this generation. I'm going to be telling these stats, sharing these stats, and then I'm going to invite Hena and Halle Caroline to give us what they think, because I think that could be really interesting. So we're kind of going to unpack Gen Z today, even though Hena has a surprise. She's actually not part of Gen Z. Surprise! She is a millennial on the cusp, so you count.
Yes. You can be an honorary member.
Yes.
I can.
Yes.
Don't get it twisted.
Don't get it. She's definitely a millennial, and she works with Gen Zs every day, and she has some overlap, I think, in behaviors. So we've brought her on, and then, of course, Halle Caroline is smack dab in the middle of Gen Z. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm going to start with some data. People defined as Generation Z, in case y'all are wondering, who are these people? They were born between 1997 and 2012. So right now they're at a turning point. The youngest among this generation are still in elementary and middle school. I think Halle Caroline and we did it yesterday. The math is like they're in fifth and sixth grades.
The youngest, I think. Yeah.
So that's it. So like beyond fifth grade this year, 2023, that's it. So fourth graders and after that are Gen Alpha, while the oldest are leaving college, entering the workforce, and starting families. So they're at that funky turning spot where they're not all adults yet. We wanted to get very different years and spans for Gen Z on this podcast. So Hena, tell us, we already said that you're a millennial, but just remind us, what year were you born exactly?
1995.
Okay, so then 97 starts Gen Z, so you're right on the cusp.
Yep.
Halle Caroline, you were born in?
1999.
99.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my gosh, I graduated from college that year. And then the same year I'm graduating from college, Halle Caroline's coming into the world. That makes me feel very old.
Good year.
I am not a millennial or a Gen Z, but y'all already know that. Okay, there are 68.6 million Gen Zs living in the United States. And according to data we found, climate change is Gen Z's greatest fear. I think that's interesting. Does that track, Halle Caroline?
It makes sense to me just in terms of we grew up with a lot of the more environmentally conscious thinking. And I feel like that was ingrained to us, especially through like elementary, intermediate, middle schools. So that makes sense.
Okay. Good to know. We need the planet to survive, so yay. Gen Z is more likely to receive therapy or mental health treatment than any other generation. Danelle and I on this podcast talk a lot about mental health and counseling and how that's, we're not ashamed of what we do there. So it's almost like the reverse. When we grew up, people just didn't do that. Like something had to be wrong with you. I hate to say that, but it's true. There was like a negative light on it. Whereas now it's been twisted to where it's so positive. Right. You're almost better for seeking out the therapy. So kudos to Gen Z for not being ashamed of needing therapy. And my last statistic is 40% of Gen Z say they plan to leave their current job within the next 2 years. Yucky. Yucky news for leaders. Now, I will say, I don't know that that's any different than how millennials used to be. I think that's just young people.
Right. That was my first thought when I read this stat. I'd be super interested to see comparatively what this looks like to millennials and either other generations.
Gen X too, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of being young and starting a new job and being young in the workforce as you're trying to figure out what you want to be doing. So I could see this just coming from a place of Gen Z's being excited to try new things.
Totally.
But, yeah.
I like that. And you know what? I think as leaders, it's important to swallow that pill. Like if you're thinking about 40% of your Gen Z staff right now, if you were to poll them leaders, how many of them would say to your face, yes, I'm planning to leave my the job that I have now with you, I'm going to leave in 2 years. You kind of need to look at it that way. Right. And you need to be planning, if I'm you, I'm using this statistic to help bolster me talking to them more regularly about, listen, don't leave. You're going to grow here, giving them some encouragement on why not to leave versus why to leave. Right?
For sure.
Ways to encourage leaving would be ignoring the fact that Gen Z is hungry, ignoring the fact that Gen Z is curious, and just being sort of complacent with it. If you're behaving that way as a leader, you can probably guarantee that somebody's going to jump, right? So I think this is all very good stuff. I have a ton of other stats that I may pull out during this episode, but we'll also be sure, listeners, to put these yummy stats that we found in our show notes. All right. So when we're talking about things that people think relative to how Gen Z shows up in the workplace, I wanted to ask y'all, I'm going to go through these, and then as I go through them, and this is what people think. So Hena, you'll be looking at it from a millennial perspective, on the cusp of Gen Z. I'll be looking at it from a Gen X perspective, and then Halle Caroline is the Gen Z. So out there, when I was looking for data for this, most people say, right or wrong, that Gen Z is difficult to work with. And I found this in an April survey by resumebuilder.com. It was actually 74% of managers and business leaders reported that they find Gen Z more difficult to work with than any other generation. True or false, Halle Caroline?
Well, I'm biased, but I would like to say false.
Yes.
I think my first thought here is just that naturally Gen Z is the youngest generation right now in the workforce. And so that would make sense as we're entering and we're the least experienced population here, that we're navigating entering the workforce, and it would make sense that things naturally are going to come up that, I guess it's new hurdles, new obstacles. I'm wondering how much of this is just growing pains and a learning curve for leaders as they're learning to lead this new generation that's going to come in with their own differences. I'm sure similar things were said about millennials 10 years ago, that they're coming in and it's just looking different and harder, I guess, to navigate leading them just because it's new and different. But
what's so funny about this, like we talked about this, but I think about this a lot actually, because people who are baby boomers that grew up in the 60s and 70s, think about that generation for a minute. Do you think they were easy on employers? Like, I'm sure we're going to get a lot of, especially my mom, like she's going to listen to this as a baby boomer and be like, no, yes. They were the same.
Right.
They were exactly the same. They were writing, they were burning bras, they were picketing, they were doing all those things that young people do. Right. And so how does this why are we calling out Gen Z specifically? Right. But this is a thing on the internet. So another thing I found was Gen Z has a short attention span. In fact, Gen Z is growing up in a time where there is an overload of information coming from a variety of different avenues. So they've gotten pretty good at tuning out the noise. And I think we all know that to be somewhat true, but who is not tuning out the noise? And to add an extra layer, Gen Z is growing up in a social media landscape that is defined by character limits. The shorter, the better. What do y'all think?
I would say that is true. I mean, it might be short, but I think it's fast.
Yeah.
Gen Z tends to move from one thing to another very quickly, and they're able to grasp the idea in a faster amount of time. So it's just like information is being fed through constantly. And I mean, whatever catches their interest, I guess they would stop to look at, but
Yeah.
it's just like a fast pace.
But would you say you're any different as a millennial? You work fast paced. You're in social media.
Yeah, probably not. I'd say that's where there's some overlap.
Yeah. And is that something that you find, and I'll ask you this too, Halle Caroline, is that notion of, a short attention span, can you use it in your favor? Can you use it to your favor in your roles at work?
I mean, for sure. I think to add to what Hena said, you can't argue with the effects that growing up with constant stimulation and technology coming at us from all angles had on us as a generation. But like you said, I think it's important to think about how we can use that to our benefit and how Gen Z brings things to the table that other generations don't, because we've grown up with this technology always. And so I think for one, I've noticed Gen Zers have this unique skill to be able to communicate effectively and concisely in a way that I think is unique to this generation. I would also argue, which I think this could be controversial, but I think that some Gen Zers could use this and take it as an ability to juggle and switch between tasks more easily and more efficiently, which I think kind of was a little bit what Hena spoke to. But I don't know. That's how I see it. Yeah,
that's what I think. Whenever I think of a Gen Z being in a role like a brand specialist or a social media specialist, even, maybe not quite where you are, Hena, in your tenure, but maybe just like newer, like where you were when you first started, that the ability to move swiftly from task to task is very important, particularly with what we do. I'm sure everybody has a lot of work to do. The thing about it is you can get it done and you can move on to the next. You can get it done and you can move on to the next, so that you feel highly accomplished at the end of the day. I do see that. I do see Gen Z feeling more accomplished here than I felt millennials was kind of a drag. Like they would be more like, I don't have enough time to do it, instead of just doing it. We complained about it more than we just did it.
Yeah.
But with y'all, the Gen Zs, I see the actual action. So that's been a nice switch.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Which you brought up, Halle Caroline, the technology thing. And that is the biggest thing that people say is that Gen Z specifically are addicted to technology and can't handle face-to-face interactions, which I personally think is not fair, but I want to hear what you think.
I mean, I think one, and Hena and I were talking about this earlier, when you say Gen Zers are addicted to technology, my first thought is, one, aren't we all? Like, I feel like I look at my mom and she has her phone in her hand at all times just as much as I do. So I think that's my first response. And then again, going back to the we were raised with it around us 24/7. I think it's unfair to put addicted to technology on the whole generation as a whole. But I don't know. I think even just thinking about my network and the people that I'm surrounded by, I don't think that that's necessarily true. And I think even with the face-to-face interactions piece, of the people that I know, I would say that we would prefer face-to-face interaction. Obviously, growing up in a culture where Zoom now is the new normal and COVID, and we had to do online things, I feel like the vast majority of the people that I were around were always wanting to be more, they were the ones who were like, okay, well, can we just go back to class in person? Or can we come back in the workplace? I have plenty of friends who have sought out new positions because they want to be in person. So I don't know. I think obviously there's going to be outliers in every group, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And as a parent of a Gen Z, and I'm sure lots of our listeners know Gen Zs in the workplace, and they probably always also have Gen Zs in their life that are either children, nieces and nephews, cousins, whatever, friends. So so Halle Caroline, you are at kind of you're not the older Gen Z. Well, yeah. You are. Yeah, you're at the older set. So the younger set, like we said earlier, is still in school by and large, and they're still developing. So they are a good sample size, and they're not, because they're teenagers. Right. And we talked about this yesterday. They're kids who are going into their teens and or are full on teenagers in that weirdness. Cooper, my son, is one of those. So if I were to say to him, look, people think that Gen Z are addicted to technology and lack of face-to-face conversation, face-to-face interactions, he'd go, not fair. Because his 7th grade year, he spent behind a computer monitor working, because of the pandemic from home. And so that limited the face-to-face, but they craved it. So they would get on FaceTime, they would get on Zoom with each other. They would try to do anything they could to try to connect. And now another thing I think that Gen Z is afraid of is just society in general. I don't know that safety, quote unquote, has always been a part of the conversation. For example, when I was a kid, my parents let me run amok outside. No shoes, bicycle, you're out after the sun comes up and you come back before the sun goes down. That was kind of the deal. I can't imagine right now as a parent being okay with that just because of the way that the world is. As a result of that, which I have raised my child that way with boundaries, you can go, but you need to be back by 11 in the morning, or you can go and you need to be back by 2 in the afternoon. Now it's, you can go and you have to be home by midnight. No matter what, you have to be home by midnight. And now he's like, you realize that I would spend more face-to-face time with people if I didn't have to be home at midnight. Yeah, I know, heavy eye roll, which is just teenager. But his point is if you want me to be face-to-face, things start to happen after 10. And I know, and I was like, all the bad things, right? But it's not that they don't want to. It's not that Gen Z doesn't want to. It's that I don't think that Gen Z, especially kind of the middle to the youngers, haven't had that whole opportunity to experience some of those freedoms that other generations have. So we all have to take that into consideration, not only for the older Gen Zs like Halle Caroline, but also for the ones who we have not yet even employed. They're coming. They're in college. They're coming into the job market in the next, anytime now and in the near future, at least for the next 10 years while they come out of college. And so we just need to be prepared for that. These people have had to have been communicated to about what is okay, what isn't okay, and boundaries setting. And here's what we do. And all the while wanting more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's a permission level there. So, which is a good segue because I want to talk about what we really want leaders to know. So we've just talked about sort of the things that generally are talked about by and large on the internet relative to Gen Z, which we've all kind of said is yuck, like not fair, like not beautiful, like they're not awesome. So let's talk about some of the good things because this is what we know to be true relative to the Gen Zs that we employ and people like Hena who are right on the cusp. They trust when the truth is told. 58% of Gen Zs believe that it is important to put the truth before other factors in all situations right now. Meaning, I don't care if it's tomorrow at 6, you got to tell me the truth or I don't believe you anymore.
Right.
Is that true?
Yeah, for sure. This is something that I don't think I even necessarily realized how much I valued it until I started working post-grad. But even I feel like I noticed it first through the interview process actually with DMA. Y'all were encouraging me so much, like ask questions. And I knew that I could get an honest and genuine response by the way y'all were encouraging me to ask me my hard questions. And a year and a half later, nothing's changed. I feel like I could bring any conversation to a leader here. And no matter what conversation that is, y'all are going to give me an honest answer. And I feel like that has fostered so much more trust than anything else could have. And I don't even think I realized that about myself until I saw this stat. And I was like, okay, wait, yeah, that's 100% true of me. I think that truth is definitely something that's going to matter most to this generation, and at least something that I for sure resonate with. So yeah, I for sure have noticed that in my own experience.
What about you, Hena?
I think so too. I mean, as a 6 on the Enneagram, the trust and the loyalty and the honesty is very important to me. And I mean, it's kind of easy to tell, you know, if you know how to read people, you can kind of tell like, okay, there's something missing or there's something more to this that they're not giving me. And I don't know if I can fully commit because I don't know that information.
Wow. And I think a lot of that has to do maybe with both of you. You're of the generation of fake news, like that whole concept, which in my growing up, never even heard that. What? All news was true. How can it be fake? So it's like you almost can't trust what you read, and you certainly can't trust what you hear. So then what do you trust? You know, it's probably relationship based. And like if I say something, then I actually have to do that thing versus just saying it and then nothing.
Right.
And then saying something else and nothing. Good and bad. So I think so the lesson for leaders relative to this is they're not genuinely, they're not trusting. So we must tell the truth, even if it's hard, which is a lot of what Danelle and I talk about on this podcast is the vulnerability and the truth and to establish trust. So but Gen Zs want to trust so badly. You just have to earn it.
Right.
We have to earn it as leaders. Okay, something else that I think is interesting about this generation that's beautiful is it's a culture of accountability. So 69% of Gen Z globally say they are willing to pay more for a brand or product if they knew it was supporting an issue they care about. From an employment perspective, accountability and authenticity seem to be paramount for this generation when it comes to my role in leadership. So your role, listener, it's very important that you understand that they're willing to do something for good. So it doesn't matter what it is. Does this track with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't have as much frame of reference for what it used to be like, but I know me and the majority of the people in my circle are a lot more willing to get behind a person or a brand or whatever if they're backing something that they also care about and resonate with.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's just a Gen Z thing or what, but I definitely see that.
I think it also has a lot to do with the increased self-awareness that Gen Z has. Like, they're not willing to just side with something, just to follow the crowd.
Right.
Or be in the majority. Like, that's where the careness comes in.
Yeah, it's like individuality over everything.
Yeah.
Yes. And so if I'm going to be accountable to who I am, where I am currently, then I expect you to be too. I don't care how old you are. Right? Yeah. That's kind of the mindset of the Gen Z. Okay. Right. I think that's really good. So again, back to trust and building trust, accountability helps with that. So from a leadership perspective, these are just all more reasons if we're lasering in on one generation specifically, these are all more reasons for us to be better as leaders and continuing our development journey. So another thing I wanted to bring up was leaders really should plan to be flexible with this generation by pushing boundaries on how we view what benefits are, right? So the old concept of a career ladder running from the mailroom to the executive suite could be replaced by something much more ad hoc and flexible relative to Gen Z's mind. Gen Z doesn't walk in the door going, "Oh, I'm going to be the CEO someday," like starting in the mailroom, which is what we used to strive to do. Like, I remember thinking that, like, I'm going to work my way up and all these traditional benefits would feed me along the way. What we have seen is that it doesn't always have to be like that. Like, it's more motivational. It's more, I don't know. It's like intangible unless it's flexibility. If it's wrapped in flexibility and letting me do, again, a little bit more of what I want to do versus what traditionally has been done, that speaks to Gen Z. Would you say that's true?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This interesting quote, some 42% of Gen Z workers value work-life balance, remote working, and flexible leave as their top priorities when looking for a job. And that's in a U.S. survey. And again, we'll put the link in the show notes. But that just tells me that's almost, well, and I don't know what the other percentage is. I mean, I'm guessing money is up there. But if you say, okay, what's number two? And it's, I just want to have this different type of work scenario. I don't have to be in an office with four walls. What do you think about that, Hena?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think thanks to COVID, this has kind of come to life more and became more of a reality for everyone, not just Gen Z. But I think now that they can see that side of, oh, this is possible, and other companies are doing this and having the, the combo of working in the office and working from home and being flexible. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Are you worried about businesses, both of you, are you worried about businesses who have not adapted? They've come back from the pandemic or they never left the pandemic leaving the office? Are you worried about the businesses who have not done anything to offer work remote or a flexible work week?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say they need to get on with it because I think that's the norm for a lot of people now. And especially younger people coming in. I mean, they want to know that they have those options.
So it's almost a competitive advantage if they do.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think especially in a day and world where it's so easy for us to be able to see what other companies have and what other companies are offering. If someone is working one way and they see all of their friends doing XYZ, they're going to desire that. And so I think that's super important for companies to offer a variety or give options for sure.
Okay. All right. So is that, I'm going to ask you a question that I don't have planned here, but is that important to both of you? Like, I think that's interesting. Like, is that something that both of you view as a benefit, the working remote?
At first, I wasn't a fan, to be honest. I love being in the office. I'm more productive here. But as time has gone on and as I've developed in my role here, at the same time, I can see the benefits to both. And I have become like more interested in working remote because of that flexibility.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Right. I personally love the hybrid style. I feel like it's the perfect happy medium of getting to actually get face-to-face time with coworkers and build relationships with one another and get to collaborate in person on things. But also it is nice to have that time to even plan like, okay, I'm going to be super creative all day on Monday because I'll be alone and I'll be by myself, or I'll grind out whatever I need to get done. So I think it's definitely nice. I structure my weeks knowing, okay, these days I'll be in the office and this day I'll be at home and I can get this work done accordingly. So I think it's great. I love having a mix of both. I think it's the perfect balance. But
Why do you think employers or leaders out there those that are holding out and not doing that, why do you think they don't do that? Why do you think they don't value work remote? Or
I mean, honestly, if I'm being real, I think it's about control. I think they want to be able to have everyone under one roof, keep an eye on them. Even if you're not micromanaging, I mean, maybe they don't trust them.
That's what it
that's
is.
what I was going to say. Yeah, it goes back to trust.
Yeah.
Do you think there are any financial implications? Like, do y'all ever think about that? Like, I'm just asking questions, like trying to pull out of y'all's minds. I think it's great that we can have a frank discussion like this, but do you ever think about, I mean, let's say a company was in a giant building in downtown, wherever USA, and they have the third and fourth floor of this building, and they have been in this building for 30 years on the third and fourth floor, and that's just where it is, and that's what we do, and that's how it goes. Do you ever think about their concern relative to their comfort level around what they have known to be norms, and quite frankly, money out of their pockets relative to the space itself? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm sure that they definitely consider that.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you've put down some roots here and you're able to say, we've been in this office for 30 plus years and we've been able to succeed and grow and get all these results here. So
would that satisfy a Gen Zer or a young millennial on the work remote issue?
That I don't think so.
Yeah. So then at that point you realize that you have control of your time and where you choose to work.
Right.
And you choose somewhere that does offer work remote. Okay. Good. Yummy. That was good. Okay. Another thing we want leaders to know is mentorship and guidance is very welcome from this generation. So, and I can say as the parent of a Gen Zer, which I've already mentioned, it may seem like they know it all. We all know. In fact, they do not just, I'm not picking on you, Halle Caroline. I'm talking about younger and really everybody. I don't know everything. Yeah. So how can a 16-year-old know everything? Right. So give Gen Zs in your life the opportunity to grow and learn from someone with more experience. It's all about the positioning. Do you have any thoughts on that, Halle?
I mean, I completely agree. I think as you spoke to earlier, Gen Z as a whole is overwhelmingly hungry to learn and to grow and to get new experiences. And we do have a lot to learn. And so I think every generation has its own hurdles. So if you have a Gen Z person in your life, I would encourage you, if there's room for growth, speak into that and step in, because I know that's something that I have highly valued. I think about the people who have stepped in and spoken into me in my life, and those are the people that I greatly appreciate. So yeah, I would definitely encourage that. I also completely agree too. It's all about how you position it, especially if you're Gen Zer in your life as a teenager. They might not want to hear your way of framing what you think is best. They might want you to frame it as, oh, this is this awesome way that you can learn and try this new thing. And maybe that's how they'll grasp onto it better. But yeah, it's a lot about how you frame and position it. But as a Gen Zer, totally appreciate that. So I would encourage that greatly.
Okay.
Yeah, I like what you said, Megan, about like not everyone knows everything, even if you're older.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it makes me think that anyone who's at the age they currently are, it's their first time going through that. Like, even though I'm about to be 28, my mom just turned 65. Just because she's so much older than me doesn't mean she has all the answers.
That's right.
Going forward, she doesn't know what it's like to be in this retirement age now.
That's right.
It'll be new for her too, and she's also still learning at the age that she's at.
That's right. We always are. Right. If we're doing life correctly, I think we're always learning. We're learning from younger people, we're learning from older people, and we're learning from ourselves and people are in our groups. And we're capitalizing on that, not necessarily monetarily, but we're capitalizing on it for happiness and growth.
Right.
Happiness and growth. Okay. So Gen Z is open, leaders. That's the point. They're open to the feedback. They're open to wanting to learn more. It may not always seem like it, but I know for sure that they are, especially in the workplace. All right, leaders, we need to expect ourselves to adapt as much or more than we do our Gen Z team members. I just want to be clear about that. When I think about the stakes for our businesses, if we don't adapt, like Danelle taught me that. Well, if we do this, blah, 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 X, Y, Z, and then she'd turn it back around me and go, okay, well, what if we don't? Right? And I'd be like, ugh, that's not good. So we usually in situations, we will lay out the stakes, good or bad. So the bad stakes here relative to leaders not trying something different with Gen Z, those new folks entering the workforce, things like significant miscommunication can happen, which can lead to the lack of trust, which can lead to frustration and ultimately leaving along in that 40% of people that want to go. You're just giving them a ticket out the door, a reason to go. Also, variance in work styles, which may drive you as a leader to want to give one option to work versus multiple. So work styles, what you like isn't necessarily what everybody likes. And what you believe is correct or right may not always be what is correct or right to others. So what I'm recommending to leaders is that you poll your team. You can have a question Q&A like I just did here with Hena and Halle Caroline about what they personally think, or you could have some sort of, we used to do, it's just going away from my mind, the polling.
Yeah.
Yes, we would poll our team members and ask them questions privately, and it was completely anonymous. We had no idea who was answering what, and they would tell us what they wanted. That's a good thing for you to do as a leader. Also, teaching how to manage conflict. There is miscommunication, and then there are downright misalignments that can lead to internal struggles and, quite frankly, awkwardness in a culture. If you are, let's say, like me, a Gen Xer trying to talk to a Gen Zer and not hitting the mark on communication. I don't know that we have that problem here. I think we've ironed out a lot of that, but I think there are probably some leaders out there, millennial leaders, doesn't matter, heck, Gen Z leaders, who don't know quite yet how to properly and effectively communicate with people in other generations that have completely different cultural values in the way that they behave. Okay. One of the ways that we combat that at DMA is by knowing ourselves first. And Hena mentioned it earlier. She's a type 6, which is the loyalist on the Enneagram. And we didn't mention what you are, Halle Caroline.
I'm a 7, the enthusiast, with a strong 6 wing, I like to say. I lean into that.
A cautious enthusiast, yes, which is beautiful. And so, with that, we know automatically, the three of us sitting at this table, how each of us could potentially receive, it doesn't matter what generation you're in, how you might receive information, if I'm giving you good information, if I'm giving you bad information, how you might naturally be disposed to respond to that. So now we're able to navigate not only for ourselves better, but also with one another. So if you haven't done that yet, leaders, please make it a priority to get into the Enneagram with your team, especially your younger folks. And then, of course, I mentioned cultural misalignment. Without the proper communication methods, without like hitting and firing, and connecting, we're going to have toxicity in the culture because somebody's going to get frustrated, whether it's the leader that's frustrated and not doing anything about it, or it's the younger person, Gen Z, millennial, whoever, who is like, what is happening? Like, I don't even know what's going on here right now. Yeah. So let's not have that. Let's not have toxicity within a culture because we are unwilling to bend to Gen Z. Okay. Okay. More turnover. If you don't do anything, be looking for your quite frankly, your millennials and your Gen Zers to want to get the heck out of Dodge. So we don't want that. And, jobs are available. So they're going to find a job somewhere else. Okay. And you need them. Gen Z, by and large, are the bigger generation now entering the workforce. If we plan our businesses to last for generations to come, and I'm sure most of you listening surely have that plan, we must learn to adapt to the ways of Gen Z because Gen Z is going to be your legacy. Like it or not, these people are coming up. They're going to be running our government. They're going to be running our country. They're going to be running the future of everything that we know to be true. So how do we help them on this journey to set them up for ultimate success, not only for your business, but for their lives? How do you tee them up? How do we train them? How do we teach them so that they're walking into their futures just having more clarity? What a gift. What else, ladies, do y'all want to talk about before we jump into music moment? Anything you want to close on relative to Gen Z? Things you think leaders should know?
Yeah, I think I would just encourage, just to reiterate, just to step in and not feel afraid to step into the Gen Zers in your life. If you're one of those people at the beginning, the stat that we mentioned about thinking Gen Z is the hardest generation to work with, I would encourage you to have those conversations and initiate with the Gen Zers in your life. Step in and see what it is that y'all can do to better work together and, invite them into that.
Do you see a time when a Gen Zer might approach a leader to be like, I don't know what the heck's going on here?
I think potentially, because I think Gen Zs as a whole are pretty strong-willed and I feel like they're pretty comfortable saying their thoughts and being open-minded. So, I mean, yes, but I also do think that's a really cool opportunity as a leader to step in and be able to initiate that conversation. So
it is. Yeah, it is.
Don't be afraid. Gen Zs don't bite.
Don't bite. Or do they? I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm very afraid of something like that. I don't understand anything that's going on.
Yeah.
That would never come out of my
No, me either when I first entered the workforce. No way, Jose.
I mean, here, I definitely feel comfortable with that, but it takes time for me to warm up. So
Yes.
once I get to that point, I would definitely be honest and reciprocate that and say, honestly, I have no idea what's happening and I need help. And I've learned that the hard way here because I stayed quiet at one point and it kicked me in the butt.
Yeah, because you didn't know what to do and so nothing was happening or you didn't do the proper process or something. Yeah. And that's happened to all of us. And that's the thing. People who are listening to this podcast have been there.
Right.
We have all been there. We've all been sitting in a chair or whatever on sitting in a podcast room and me expecting you to know how to podcast after 85 episodes I've had under my belt. And this is your first one. That's an irrational expectation for me to put on you. Right?
Thanks for calling it.
But I will say it's gone pretty well. I think y'all are doing a great job. You're killing it.
So
You're killing it. You're killing it, which I would expect, which is why I invited you both to be on. And I'm so glad that you did. I really am. Okay.
I would say for one last thing that leaders need to know about Gen Z is clean and simple, just be considerate. I think, at least for me, that's what matters the most is when someone takes the time to consider my thought process and my feelings, my reactions to certain situations, especially if they're difficult conversations, because then you approach it in a very responsible way. And I think people can definitely tell, and Gen Z would definitely be able to pick up on that. So that's what matters to me.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, both of you, for getting transparent with me. Now let me ask you about music.
Yay.
Okay. So we love this. I don't know that you have Spotify.
I do.
Okay, I didn't know for sure.
I got premium, girl.
Me too. Me too. Okay, that's good. Okay, so we love Spotify Wrapped. Danelle and I do. I'm sure y'all do too. And it's like top news. It's like headline news whenever it comes out. Yeah, super fun. Okay, so it comes out, just as a reminder, listeners, your Spotify Wrapped will come out the first week of December. and it confirms who your top artists, songs, and genres are for the year. Like, where's your head been? That's what it always tells me, is like, where's my head been this year? Even if you don't have Spotify, which you both do, but I want our listeners to think about this too. What will be your top 3 artists of 2023? Hurry, Hena, go.
Okay. Well, I don't think mine would be much different this year than last year, even though they were 2 very different years in my life.
Right.
I still kind of listen to the same music.
Yeah.
Different versions from artists. But I would say Bad Bunny.
Oh, he's going to be on SNL soon.
Oh my God, really?
Yes.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yes.
Okay, marking my calendar.
After before this airs, so stand by.
Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah. I think he's great. And
Yeah.
I don't know Spanish, but
But you like him.
in Spanish, yes. Next, probably the Biebs, Justin Bieber.
Really?
Yeah, he has a large spectrum
Yeah.
of different sounds.
We need to get into that, Danelle and I. Okay.
I think she has.
I like young, little, sweet little Justin Bieber. I just haven't gotten into him as
Oh, that was like 10 years ago.
an elder man. I know.
He has a nice voice.
Y'all need to dabble, yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Okay.
good.
Okay. That's a good idea.
And lastly, probably a tie between Drake and The Weeknd.
Oh, I love The Weeknd and Drake. So good.
Very
I heard an explicit version this morning of Starboy.
Okay.
And I had never heard it before. And I was like, well, listen to you, The Weeknd.
Firing you up for your
Yes. I was like, goodness. Oh, Lord. Okay. Yeah, but they're amazing. Those are great. So you think that's what you're forecasting? So when it comes out, we can look back on this and
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. What about you, Halle Caroline?
Okay, so my number 1 is going to come as absolute zero surprise to either of you, but 100% will be Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Has been since 2016. That's my one constant. She always stays at the top. And then number 2 could either be maybe Luke Combs or Morgan Wallen, something country. I listen to a lot of country too. The third one is a complete wild card. It could be anything from Olivia Rodrigo to Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton or whoever puts my white noise on Spotify, because I always be listening to white noise too. But I don't know. It's very diverse typically, my top like 3 to 5. So we'll see. I'm excited.
Wow.
It's always a great unveiling.
So this will be interesting because you are such a huge Taylor Swift fan. What song of hers is going to be the top one for you? Listen to it this year.
So that's a good question. I feel like the Eras tour is really going to throw me off because I was listening to so many different eras of her music the whole year. So that would be interesting to see. My mind immediately goes to All Too Well 10-minute version because I use that as my timer in the mornings, which I've never told anyone this. This is why I'm laughing as I'm saying it. But that's my like 10-minute, okay, I have 10 minutes before I leave. I'm going to play the 10-minute version of All Too Well, which is kind of crazy of me because it's a pretty emotional song that's my timer that I get ready to. But
And you're like,
either 10-minute All Too Well or I don't know, maybe Cruel Summer. I'm a big Lover girl for my Taylor Swift fans out there, but we'll see. I don't know.
Love
It'll be
it.
exciting to see.
Awesome. Dare I ask about the football relationship? Should we go there? We talked about it before we got into the
Yeah, we've already
Taylor
been
and
there.
Travis.
yeah. And by the time this airs, things could have changed drastically.
Totally.
For sure.
So we're really arting ourselves on whatever we say.
I don't know. I like it.
You like it?
I don't really know either of them that well, especially the dude. But
Okay.
It makes sense to me.
Travis Kelce. Mm-hmm. He's probably gonna hate that, as if he's listening. But I mean,
Yeah.
if he knew that, he'd probably be like, bummer, big bum.
Taylor and Travis, if you're out there.
Yeah.
I was hesitant at first just because I'm protective of my girl, but from my research that I've done of people who are true NFL, Chiefs, Travis Kelce fans, they all give good reviews of him. So I think I have
He's
to
a good
trust
boy.
that and go with that. And
Yeah.
I know he appreciates her for who she is, which I can respect. And she feels like a small girl next to him because he's 6'5". And so
I know.
I'm excited for her.
And she's tall, right?
yeah,
You're
5'10".
tall.
Yeah.
How tall
She's
are you?
right there with me.
5'9"?
5'9". Yeah.
1 inch. She's got you by 1 inch.
I know. But yeah, I'm excited about
I need to
it.
never be in a room with y'all
Yeah.
Or Travis Kelce.
or anyone for that matter.
How do you feel about it, Megan?
How tall are you, Hena?
I'm 5 foot.
I thought you were gonna say 5-foot-ish. I hope on a good day.
Good day.
Tiny little thing. Yeah, just to give you guys a visual. You can always see them on YouTube if you were to go look, listeners. Well, I'm so glad you both have been here today. It's been a wonderful episode. I'd love to have you both back. Maybe we can talk about something else, Gen Z and or millennial, and dive deep into that. Because I do think as leaders, we wonder a lot.
Yeah.
We wonder. So not bad, just like, how do we work these people? How do we get in there?
How do they swipe on these dating apps?
Yes. Yeah, which I love to talk about all that. Yes. Okay. Yeah, maybe we should do that. Yes. Yes. All right. So remember, we're going to have lots of stats for you today in the show notes. Thank you so much in advance for being here and for telling a friend. I know that you're doing it because we can see the results. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Visit beselfsmarter.com. Don't forget, we've put a lot of resources out there for you if you're interested in coaching or just tools to help you get through leadership struggles and challenges that you're going through. So let us help you. And until next week, we send you into the week with grateful hearts. Bye-bye.
As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming Self Smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.